How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. And for this video, we're going to head out into the backyard because it's just so nice out. It's October. It's supposed to be cold, but it's been 80 degrees here every day of October so far. So I want to take advantage of it while I can, which means not being holed up in my basement. In today's video, I have a rare single topic to cover for you guys because over the weekend, there was a huge explosion of news surrounding Xbox and them completely leaving the hardware business. I'm going to run through it quick because this is not an Xbox channel, so like I don't want to get into the deeper stuff about it, but basically what was reported is that, we've heard these rumors that the next generation Xbox is going to be not necessarily a traditional game console like the Xbox Series X, the Xbox Series S, the PS5, the Nintendo Switch 2, but more a Windows PC that heavily integrates the Windows app. And that honestly sounds cool, right? Like Microsoft made Windows well before they made Xbox. They've been really ramping up their PC gaming ecosystem footprint over the past few years, and Valve making the Steam Deck, which we'll talk about later in the video, kind of put a fire under their butt to really, take advantage of the huge ecosystem of PC users that they built up over the past few decades. But the latest rumor we're hearing is that all those plans might be going out the window, mainly because of course, the Activision Blizzard takeover by Xbox. They assumed that if they bought Call of Duty, made it somewhat exclusive to Xbox, put it on Game Pass, that would result in a massive influx of users to the Game Pass service. And honestly, the thinking doesn't not make sense, right? Like Call of Duty is the biggest game every single year. It has been for decades at this point. You can set your watch to every single Call of Duty, far outpacing the last one. So you figure if you put it on a streaming service like Game Pass, where you pay $20 a month, this was before they hiked the price up to $30 a month, people would take advantage of that because if it's one of those forever games that they play every single year, they're not going to do the math, right? $20 a month definitely adds up to more than the cost of Call of Duty, but when you factor in all the other first-party releases that come to Game Pass day one, if you don't think about it too deeply and really plan out your year because you don't know what games are going to be great and what games are going to be mediocre, it seems like on the surface a better deal to a lot of people, especially if they already own an Xbox, so they might subscribe to Game Pass to get access to Call of Duty every single year, in addition to the entire back catalog of Call of Duty. If they're feeling Modern Warfare 2019, they can play that. If they're feeling Black Ops 2 all the way back on the 360, they can play that. It seems like a pretty good deal, but it didn't materialize. Allegedly, they lost $300 million, with the vast majority of the income, of course, coming from PlayStation and PC. They just didn't convert the amount of people that they needed to over to the Game Pass subscription service to really make that worth it for them to spend billions and billions of dollars on Activision in the first place. So because of that, the rumors are the huge layoffs, the studio closures, they're going to continue. We're going to see them double down and focus on franchises like Call of Duty, The Elder Scrolls, Forza Horizon, the huge moneymaker franchises that they now own, and let the more creative stuff like, Avowed, Grounded, Indiana Jones, maybe even Blade sort of fall by the wayside in favor of just reinvesting in what works. And then while they do that, they're going to get rid of the console and the PC ecosystem entirely in terms of gaming and really make the Xbox platform be a cloud service at the end of the day. And we've already seen them sort of take steps into that with the new Game Pass Essential, Premium, and Ultimate categories that they totally ripped off from PlayStation. All of them are centered on cloud access. Like the cheapest one gets you free cloud access with some time limits, and then it goes all the way up to Game Pass Ultimate for $30 a month, which gets you the shortest queue times to get into cloud streaming, the best video quality, the fastest access, the access to all the first-party games. The premium tier gets you first-party games within a year. Overall, it's a big reduction in service to the Game Pass ecosystem as a whole, but what they're really focusing on is making that an entry point into the cloud services. But then we got an extra twist in this scenario where people like Jez Corden and Destin Legary reached out directly to Xbox, and Xbox came back and told them, no, we're not exiting the hardware business. We're still working on the console we announced just a few months ago in partnership with AMD. Whether that console is a traditional console or a more PC-like box, I'd guess it's still a PC box, but the point is they directly refuted these rumors and said, no, nothing is changing within our hardware business. We are working on Xbox hardware. We've got the Xbox ROG Ally coming out soon. Just sit tight and wait, and we will have new hardware to come down the line. But Xbox has kind of eroded all of the trust of people because how many times have they done this? Remember when they started porting games to PlayStation? Phil Spencer got on camera and said, we're just starting out with 4 games. We're collecting data. We're not going to be releasing everything day and date on PS5. And now here we are just a year later, and basically everything, if not everything, is going to come to PS5 and PS6. Like even Forza Horizon 6, that was announced for everything. It's coming first to PC and Xbox and coming to PS5 later, but in the initial announcement, they're not even doing the thing where they hide the PS5 release for a few months. They're just announcing it for PS5 and letting people know that if you want to play it there, you don't have to buy an Xbox unless you want to play it day one. Then you have the multiple instances where they say, hey, everything's going great, we're making more money than ever, our revenue is bigger than it's ever been, and then magically the next day you see a bloodbath of studio closures, layoffs, games canceled, and everything else. So even in their hardest core camp, like, you know, the people who white knight for them on Twitter constantly and do free marketing, even they are coming out and sharing Halo Reach memes with the helmet and saying this is Xbox and stuff like that. So they've eroded trust in their core community. They've eroded trust obviously in the PlayStation community. So when they come out and say, yes, we are going to focus on hardware going into the future, it's tough for the vast majority of people out there to believe them. So if they are exiting the hardware business altogether, that would be bad for Sony and us as PlayStation gamers for a lot of reasons. On the surface, it seems great, right? Like your biggest competitor, the thorn in your side for decades at this point, is exiting the hardware realm. You are completely unchallenged in the world of hardware to do whatever you want and completely dominate the market. And the reason that's bad is we've seen this play out. During the original Xbox generation, Sony pulled ahead of them by orders of magnitudes higher than they really even thought they would. The PS2, despite being less powerful than the Xbox, had more games that people wanted to play, like Grand Theft Auto and everything else. It sold astronomically higher than the Xbox, and Sony thought they were primed to just take over the industry in the following generation. So they priced the PS3 at $600. They added in a bunch of features that no one wanted, like being able to use Linux, connecting SD cards to it, printing from it, just doing all this extra crap that built on, you know, the PS2 success from being a DVD player for a lot of people, and they paid the price for it. They had to strip all those features out. They had to dramatically lower the price. They had to reinvest in big first-party games because at launch, the PS3 did not have anywhere near the catalog that people really wanted it to, and the games that Sony did release weren't living up to the standard that they set during the PS2 generation. Sony went into that generation fully confident that for all intents and purposes, people would just show up to buy whatever they put out, and they learned their lesson because they had to strip all those features out to basically lower the price down to around $250 and reinvest into first-party games to get people excited for PlayStation. And we've seen them kind of do a similar thing this generation, right? Like they haven't had a lot of big heavy-hitting first-party titles. They've had some good ones like Spider-Man 2, like Death Stranding 2, like Returnal, like Ghost of Yotei. But if you look at the sales data, Ghost of Yotei excluded because it just came out, they're not selling to the level that they sold during the PS4 generation because they also put their focus on live service and buying studios like Bungie. And again, they are paying the price for it. So imagine how much worse that's going to be without any competition from Xbox in the hardware realm. And if you're sitting there thinking Nintendo provides that competition to them, I don't really think they do. Nintendo does have a pretty solid console with the Switch 2. It definitely has its problems. It's overpriced. There haven't been a lot of games. They're not sending out dev kits, and they're telling developers to prioritize the Switch 1. But even with all of those problems, they are living in the world that Sony wants to live in. But everyone showed up day one to pick that thing up and spend $450 to $500 on it. So Nintendo's kind of proved that they have their core audience dialed in to not only buy their expensive console, but buy their games. And unlike Nintendo, Sony is already putting their first-party games over on the Nintendo Switch 2. You have LEGO Horizon Adventures, of course, but on top of that, you have Bandai Namco partnering up with Sony, buying their dormant IP and putting those games on Nintendo Switch 2, and you don't see the same thing happening in the opposite. So Sony is effectively helping Nintendo with the Switch 2. Sony is putting their games on PC, and Nintendo simply isn't doing that. Nintendo games end up on PC through emulation and other ways, but outside of that, Nintendo's not putting their first-party stuff on any other platform. So if you look at it from 1,000 feet up, it looks like Nintendo is in a better position than Sony, because I don't know what they could do at this point to stop people from buying their consoles and their games. And another reason it's bad if Microsoft goes away is console price. I mean, we've already seen console prices exploding this entire generation, and even Microsoft is the worst about it, right? Like you can pay $700 for the original Series X with virtually no upgrades at this point, whereas at least when Sony's charging $700 for a console, it's the PS5 Pro. If you go back to the launch of the PS4, the reason the PS4 was $399 is because Xbox overpriced the Xbox One. If you go back to the launch of the PS5, the only reason the digital digital model PS5 was a full $100 cheaper than the disk drive one is because Xbox came out with the Series S at a much cheaper price than the Series X. Even though the performance was worse, they were marketing it right, and Sony was scared that people would show up for that console over the PS5, so they lowered the price of the digital PS5 to $400. Yeah, $400. And with Nintendo raising their prices up to $450, I mean, there's really no check in place for Sony to not just dramatically increase the cost of the PlayStation 6 to make even more of a profit, because we know that their goal forever now is to make a profit on consoles and not take a loss and make it up later on the game. So you want, even though you're not buying an Xbox, even though you're kind of rooting for them to trip and stumble and not release games that are amazing exclusively to Xbox because you can't play them on your PS5, you want them to be around and provide a competition point to Sony to just keep the pricing levels and the quality levels of games in check. Because, you know, when you have the entire market cornered, you can cut corners. You can release games 80% done. You can cut out content for DLC later. And for a while, you know, people will show up and buy it, and I'm sure that it'll take some time for them to catch on to what Sony's doing if that does happen. But I don't want to live in a scenario where that happens at all, and the only way to keep that from happening is competition. So it sounds super bad and like nothing can be done about it, but one company that I don't think Sony is really worrying about that they should is Valve. So Valve owns Steam, they make the Steam Deck, and right now the Steam Deck has only sold 5 million units, but Valve has been very clear that they're in the hardware business for the long haul, and not only are they working on the Steam Deck 2, which is definitely going to be much bigger than the original Steam Deck because they have so much data on how people actually use the Steam Deck that they can then reinvest into making a better product. They're also working on a PC console that's going to run SteamOS, be totally navigatable by a controller, have a way to access the Steam store on top of a desktop, and you can take every game you buy on Steam anywhere you want. Like any PC you buy, any Mac you buy, any handheld you buy, including the Xbox ROG Ally, you can download Steam and access the same games and with your saves. The save transferring is free, the online is free, all of that follows you from PC to PC to PC forever. So if they do make a console style PC, that's another entry point into the ecosystem where they can lock people in, because even if it's lower spec than something like the PS5 or even the PS6, people can say, oh, I really like this thing. I've invested $400 or $500 into it. I like staying in this ecosystem. And then they can walk down to Micro Center and buy all the parts they need to build a huge beefy gaming PC and already have the library of games they either built up on their Steam Deck or their Valve PC. And the big win that Valve has is that Steam is not tied to a specific hardware platform. The PlayStation Store, as of right now, is tied to the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. It's tied to the PlayStation handheld that's coming up, and you can buy some games on Steam, but there's no dedicated Sony app on PC that allows you to buy a game once on PlayStation and play it on PC. They collect money off of Steam sales, but for right now, their main moneymaker is the PlayStation Store. Xbox has a better move right now with Windows and the Xbox Store and everything like that. They can get you on the Xbox app, they can get you on Windows, but people just prefer Steam, so they're going to win that battle over Xbox. Steam is not tied to hardware. You can buy a Steam Deck and interact with the Steam Store, but you can also buy a gaming laptop. You can build a PC. You can buy a pre-built PC. You can buy so many different devices to access the Steam Store that they just have a bigger group of people to kind of take advantage of than Sony and Microsoft could ever hope to, because they also have a much better reputation than, I'm sorry, both Sony and Microsoft, and of course Nintendo. So by any metric, I think Xbox going away is bad. I like Sony, I like their games, I like their platform, I love using the PlayStation 5 Pro, but like, it just blows my mind that this is the situation we're in. And the double-edged sword of it is when Xbox gets desperate, they try new things, like charging for online. That started with Xbox. Making pro consoles like the PS5 Pro, that started with Xbox and the Xbox One X. Putting your games on other platforms. Xbox was the first one to take their first-party games and put them on Windows, then Sony followed suit. Having expensive subscription services, Xbox started that with Game Pass, then Sony had to follow up with PS Plus Essential, Extra, and Premium. Cloud streaming, you could kind of pin on Sony because they did buy Gaikai before Xbox even started investing into xCloud, but in terms of overall marketing and just getting it out there and making it a core pillar of their business, that one goes to Microsoft as well. So like all of those things, in my opinion, except the Pro models, which are kind of 50-50 because of the support we've seen for the PlayStation 5 Pro, have made the industry worse and kind of forced Sony to follow in Xbox's footsteps. But if their hardware goes away, I mean, I don't see the console business itself lasting, if I'm being real with you guys, because at a certain point, when you price these things over $1,000, it just makes people want to say, well, I could pay $500 or $600 more and get much more performance out of a PC. And I know that any game I buy on Steam or get through Game Pass is going to follow me forever into the future, as long as I have Steam or as long as I pay for Game Pass. And Sony has literally no way to fight that as of now. It's really hard to see where things are going, and in my heart of hearts, it's really hard to be happy about Xbox failing. On the good side for them, the Asus ROG Xbox Ally is coming out soon, and it's selling better, allegedly, than anyone expected, which is great because, you know, like, it would suck to spend all that time and lend out the Xbox brand only to have it fall on its face. All the pre-orders are selling out. The demand is higher than even Asus anticipated, so it looks like people want to take advantage of Game Pass and have an Xbox handheld, even if they are going to be met with the reality that it's not really an Xbox handheld. So there is some silver lining here, but right now things are in the unknown territory, and I just hope they end up good. But I wanted to get my thoughts out there without just making a straight up Xbox video. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, we kind of need Xbox in the hardware business to keep things good for Sony and not give them the maniacal runaway success that they had going into the PS3 generation, because I don't know, that was a rough time. I'm sure a lot of you are too young to remember that, or you were just getting into gaming towards the tail end of the PS3 era, but like, this all happened right when I started high school, and literally everyone I knew from the beginning of high school into the beginning of college had an Xbox 360. I was the only person at my college that I knew that brought a PlayStation 3 and an Xbox, or a PlayStation 3 in the first place. So I never want things to get that bad again, which is why I'm a little bit nervous about all these rumors and where everything is going. And unfortunately, you can't trust anything Xbox says because of, you know, their whole record of saying one thing and doing the other. But what do you think? I'd love to hear from you down in the comments below. As always, guys, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.